Hurricanes are 8-0. Brad Shield to be with us at 2:30. Blues are 7-1. Brumbies, Rebels, Chiefs, Reds, Drua and MP make up the top 8. And the Crusaders are sitting there 1-7. Justin Marshall joins us again. Welcome back, Justin.
Yep, good to be back, Marty. Not so good, I guess, if you're a Crusaders fan, because the misery has just been compounded on at the weekend, unfortunately.
Yeah, it just goes from bad to worse. Let's start there then. Many questions about this. Look, this is a team that scored 37 against the Chiefs. It was only 3 weeks ago. This is a team that just conceded 37 against the Force, and that was a terrible performance.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, unfortunately, this was basically the second in a series of games where they could have launched themselves into the top 8, and they dropped the first one to the Waratahs in unnecessary circumstances, and then against the bottom dwellers, the Force, who, to be fair, probably put the best side that they were able to put out. And when you're in a hole, which the Crusaders quite significantly are, other teams do smell opportunity and sniff out a chance, don't they? And that's probably the best game the Force have played this season, and they look pretty good at stages of that game, and their defence was at times really resilient. But just, again, too much of that clunkiness, too many errors, bad decision-making from the Crusaders, and nothing's really changed throughout the entire season apart from the Chiefs' performance.
You always think, can it get any worse? And Justin, week after week, we keep saying to each other, don't we? Oh, look, it's only a matter of time. They'll turn this around. They've got games that they'll win. New South Wales, the Force are coming up as the Rebels. And, of course, those 3 Australian games, I was sitting there thinking they were going to be 4 and 5, man. When do we start giving up on this idea that the Crusaders are going to make the finals and be a threat?
Like you, I was thinking the same thing. I was really positive that there was an opportunity for them to, get some momentum. Yeah, obviously getting some players like Ethan Blackadder back into the mix. Quinton Strange starting to get some minutes out there, and just an opportunity, Frank, back obviously for them to just basically get some rhythm, get some wins under their belt, get some confidence in the side, and then you never know what could possibly happen. But it's still just not happening for them. And unfortunately, it doesn't get much worse than what happened in Perth, and that doesn't help the pressure situation. It doesn't help the speculation around the coaching, doesn't help the speculation around players' form and whether or not the effort's there. All of those questions are rightly being asked.
Okay, let's talk about Rob Penney. I knew you and Watto were talking about this on another radio station yesterday. And look, to me, there's a couple of aspects to this, Justin. It's really cheap and easy. It's always sack the coach. We heard this with Ian Foster, which was bloody ridiculous. Rob Penney, we have been told by Colin Mansbridge, he's appointed on a 2-year contract. He is the guy that they went after for all kinds of different reasons. The results are absolute crap this year. I do understand that. Let's put another aspect to it, though. For New South Wales, when he was coach, I think they had 5 losses in a row and they got rid of him. So is it because we don't get rid of coaches here in New Zealand, we don't like to sack people? Or do you think that, hey, look, this is just an aberration, even if it's an aberration of a season, and the guy deserves at least a chance to try and turn it around?
I think basically it's more the Crusaders and their thought process. Like they're not a team, they're not a franchise, they're not an administration that panics. And when things are not going well, and they haven't always gone well, they are more processing, what would be the alternative option. And to make a drastic decision like sack the coach right now, in particular, who's going to take over? What's the succession plan? The succession plan was Rob Penney. And I'm sure there were conversations in that boardroom when the chat was going on with the new coaching staff that there was going to be a bit of a teething process and a transition from a very successful coach and an exit. That would have been something that they would have spoken about. So there was going to be a few rocks in the road, no doubt about it. And I don't think anyone could have envisaged it playing out this way. It's been worse than they would have ever imagined. But I would think that the process of having Rob Penney involved and having him signed up for 2 years was a longer-term plan, and I don't expect them to make a really rash decision on this.
See, everyone is sitting here thinking, okay, you've got to ask Justin whether he'd sack him or not, because then it becomes a quote, oh, Justin Marshall thinks this about it. So I'm treading warily here. And that's why I'd rather talk to you around, do you believe that he will stay? And you've given me all the reasons that he would. I think at the moment, and I have criticised New Zealand rugby for a long time about, hey, we don't get rid of coaches, but I'm just not so sure right now that the best move is to go, right, get rid of him, put somebody else in. Does it change? If you are going to do it, maybe sit down in a more calm environment at the end of the year. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that is fair. And look, to be honest, you know, what coach that's got any pedigree at all at the moment would want to take that job on right now? You know, like honestly, yes, you could make some improvements, but it's a season that's in a really difficult place to be able to come in, and then the expectation levels are incredibly high, because it's like, okay, well, everybody wanted the coach sacked, he's been sacked, now the new coach is in, he's going to turn things around immediately. So that's a massive pressure situation for anybody to walk into. So, look, I'm sure there'll be an extensive review, don't get me wrong, at the end of the season, but I just don't feel that anything will happen during season. It's not the Crusaders' way. It's not the way that they operate. They're more of a family-orientated franchise. They care about their people, regardless of what's happening internally and externally. And I would be very, very, very surprised if they do anything dramatic now, but they may have quite a good conversation at the end of the year to see how they make things different for next year.
1:26 time, Justin Marshall is with us. We're looking back, first and foremost, as we do on Mondays, people with all the Super Rugby over the weekend. The Blues didn't just look good, they were very, very good. You were at that game, 7 tries to 1. It didn't look like a 2 versus 3 match at all. So, were the Blues that good, or were the Brumbies that bad?
Look, I think the Blues were incredibly well prepared. To hear guys like Patrick Tuipulotu saying that he was nervous in their prep week, that they were really methodical in their prep week because of how much they respected the Brumbies and how good a side that they are. Obviously, the players were very well aware of the challenge confronting them, and yes, 2v3. So I think you have to give them massive credit for that. The fact that they knew what to expect out of the Brumbies, that they went in with a game plan, and they perfectly executed it. And you have to say that's a flawless night's work, and they deserved their very resounding victory. However, in the same breath, the Brumbies did not front. They were not a side that were there trying to compete, which was a real shame. They were inaccurate. They made game plan, decision-making, fundamental errors throughout the game. They actually didn't get more than 7 phases in the entire match.
Wow.
Not one time.
Wow.
And equally, they operated with 28% ball. So when they did have it, they either coughed it up or spilt it, or the Blues didn't give it to them to use. So, you know, it's not a team that were able to fire any shots at the Blues, and the Blues didn't allow them to. But equally, it's a team that just did not on the night come with the firepower that they've got and enter into the contest. And whether that was them having an off night, I'm not sure, and where they'll look and who they'll blame, that's for them to deal with. But I can't fault the effort of the Blues. You know, you can't bring them into that scenario, because the Blues went out and did what they needed to do, and good on them for doing that. And they have only done one thing to the Brumbies, and that's create massive doubt in a side that was potentially looking to try and get into the semi-finals, because they didn't look like a side are going to get anywhere near it when they came up against a New Zealand team that were looking to take them apart, and did so.
Well, a second loss of this year, exactly the same circumstances. They got belted by the Chiefs the same. Now, Lachlan has done some train spotting here, and it's about Caleb Clarke. It's a complex question, Justin. I've asked him to ask you himself. Here goes.
Yeah, I apologies if I bore you here, Justin, but I noticed something with Caleb, I think it was the second or third try, the one that he scored, where it was this play off the back of the scrum where he was the second receiver, and he ended up crashing into the defensive line, absorbed about 2 or 3 guys, and he scored. And it reminded me a lot of, or looked like a carbon copy to me at least, of the play the Crusaders used to run a lot with Lester Whanganuku, as they're either first receiver or second guy off the back of a scrum running on, I don't know if it's the open side or where you've got more of the field in front of you. Is it, maybe I don't watch the Crusaders and the Blues enough, but it felt like it was something new that the Blues tried with Caleb. Am I right in saying that? And also, do you think it could actually be something maybe Razors looked at and thought Caleb could be a good backup or a good replacement to the role that Lester used to play for me?
Yeah, it's a good observation, Lachlan, and absolutely. And I think Caleb's, by his own admission, admitted that he had to have a good look at himself at the end of last year, and he also had to look at what other wingers in the country are doing that he wasn't.